Up, Silas here. Just a quick video, just with some observations based off of this video. It's going to be linked below. It's by Turd Flinging Monkey, called The Ballad of Broken Boys. And it's just this really horrific story about this guy who calls in and talking about his background, about how his father had this codependency and then married two women that ended up having their issues, and the abuse that he'd been through, about being institutionalized, his stepbrothers and things like that. And it's just a really tough, sad situation. And it's in the MGTOW community and making excellent points of why you shouldn't marry certain kinds of women. But the jump thing, and yeah, some people will say, oh, you're talking about not all women are like this. And I do understand that the system is set up 100% for people to take advantage of it, for unstable people to take advantage of it and harm men in a really messed up way, because they had situations where the woman was cheating and then she just gets full custody of the kids regardless, and it takes a long time for the father to actually end up getting full custody back of his kids. And there was somebody else on the show himself who was talking about how his kids were actually being sexually assaulted by the boyfriend of the woman, and he had to spend thousands and thousands, tens and thousands, almost I think over $100,000 going through the court system in order to get his kids back. Sometimes that ends up with the kid being institutionalized and broken down. And they're pointing out exactly how kids get destroyed. They're talking about how the father had issues from his childhood that had the codependency that kind of gets him going back in, where the father has gotten to the point where he's like, okay, I just can't pick women, so I'm not going to deal with women. And now these people are talking about how, oh, if you actually deal with women at all. And the whole time I'm hearing this, I'm like, you guys are exactly pointing out the things that happened in your lives that have harmed you, that have made it tougher for you to actually end up living a normal life or just a well-adjusted life. And you're saying, look at these people breaking people, look at the things these people did to their kids that's going to end up messing these people up. This is why we should avoid dealing with these people. Yet they're also saying you shouldn't deal with women at all. But I'm like, can't you actually see this point? The point that I'm trying to make here is, if they are kids whose parents didn't put them through what these horrible parents are putting their kids through, chances are they are going to be well-adjusted human beings when they grow up. So yes, there are women out there who will actually have had parents that are in a stronger environment. We're talking about how a lot of situations the males don't really get aid. They're talking excellent point how in some situations people, they're talking about vets, they're talking about just people in general. This guy had very messed up ideas in his mind, these very violent ideas due to the mistreatment his stepmom was giving him, or his mother and stepmom. Yeah, also the stepmom was giving him. And then he went to a counselor at his school, and the counselor at his school ended up telling the police, and he ended up being taken to an institution. And I just can't, that's got to be horrible. And being able to be in that position of pain and hurt, and then reaching out for help, and having that person who's supposed to help you end up turning you into the authorities, and then you get taken to an institution, and then you get further kind of influence in there, and then it's just it's disgusting to think about that. But you can actually see these processes where it's like, look, these things, the lack of help, the lack of actual good help, results in somebody getting harmed more. The lack of actual good, peaceful parenting, responsible parents, results in people requiring the actual help that in many cases they don't have. So you've already shown how you're saying, look, this is actually things that harm someone. So what I'm saying is, even if people have been harmed, you can actually look, have they actually found good help? Because we're not saying there isn't such a thing as good help. And he points out this excellent channel, which I've suggested a few times on this one, Spetsnaz. I'll leave a link below to that channel as well. It's an excellent channel, excellent resource for males, but I think women can actually go in there and understand and listen to some of that stuff too, even if it's not for their direct life, but maybe to relate to some issues that some men might be going through. It's a really great channel, excellent content there. But what I'm trying to point out is they're completely realizing that, yes, there are things that we're pointing out and seeing. If somebody does this to their kids, it ends up hurting the kids. If somebody who has been hurt doesn't have the actual right kind of help, they end up going in a further downward spiral into this mess. So if you can understand that, then we understand there's no default nastiness in certain people. Women by default do have different tendencies, but it doesn't mean every woman is going to be willing to actually do that. There are things that break women down also mentally for them to get to that situation, just how there's other things that break men down mentally and they behave in a certain way. So yes, it still is a risk. There still are certain occasions, certain places where some laws I think are just horrible and need to be changed. You should definitely be more aware and more risky, more risk averse and more aware of what you're getting into when you get into a relationship with somebody. Don't just go in there without getting to know. There's this random story and more of a lighter note. There was this other thing. I think I'll also leave a link below to that. Sneeting. Some woman was talking about sneeting, where she goes on dates with people, finds people on Tinder and goes on dates, and that's how she gets her meals. She doesn't have any intention of actually dating this person again. She pretty much just swipes right and finds enough people who are willing to take her out on a date, and then she gets a free meal out of it. And I was talking about that kind of situation where, yeah, you can do that and they'd be like, oh, women are horrible. I'm like, no, if you're on Tinder just swiping at people you don't even know, and then on the first date you're going to take them out for a $50, $60 dinner, then that's kind of on you. Like, I don't know what the male equivalent of that kind of thing is. I don't know what the male equivalent of that would be, a woman expecting something from the man. I guess it would be a woman putting out on the first date and expecting a longer relationship and then wondering why the guy doesn't actually, like, date them anymore. It's like, look, you've got to understand these. Be adults. In these kind of situations, don't pay that much for the woman that you don't know if you're not really that interested in them. Just have these kind of situations. So have some situational awareness. It's dangerous out there. In some places, it's not as dangerous as it has been in the past. I mean, in the past, yeah, you could marry somebody, you could date somebody, and then if you want to break up with that person, her brothers and family would come up and beat you up or something like that. Or there was other challenges in the past as well, and there's other challenges here now. And with those things, just like look at marriage as a business contract to start another family. First, if you don't want to have kids, I suggest don't get married. There's not really a point for it. Second, if you're not really looking to get married, and I don't understand why you need a long-term dating. I think that whole system is set up to get a stable situation where you can have kids. So definitely discuss kids. Discuss the kind of parenting that you're going to want to have with this person. Look into peaceful parenting. Talk about what they experienced as kids. Get to know what their relationship is with their parents and their siblings, if they have any, so you can kind of get to an idea of how they grew up and then what they might want to do when kids come around and things like this. These are some basic things I think people should consider before they actually enter these kind of things that people don't. People obviously don't do these things before they actually get into those relationships. So yeah, you guys can let me know. I know it's the whole not all thing, not all women, but it's this how they jump from saying these are the things that hurt people, so don't deal with any women. Yes, the world is gynocentric. People do focus more on women. That whole idea that it's a patriarchy in the West is a lie. It's a fallacy. I don't believe that. But do I believe we need to go to the point where we take all rights away from men? I don't even think it's how, even the practicality. It's not even a practical thing, but that's one thing Turd Flinging Monkey says. So just a warning, people go on his channel before you get triggered. He does advocate for taking all rights away from men, at least when it comes to like voting rights and things like that. But I don't think that's needed. I think it's just a situation where we need to have voting itself. I'm not for just universal suffrage. I think voting about every kind of situation needs to be a situation where there's actually qualifications to get that vote. Like, why are you voting about this thing? Because voting essentially just gets other people with guns to enforce your preferred behavior on other people. So that kind of situation, why should I be subject to what you expect to be done in a society? It should be up to the person to actually make their case for why what they want is positive. Make your case to as many people. Don't just vote it in so somebody else can go oppress somebody with that. Don't just expect people to do things the way you think it's going to be done. Why do you expect this woman to not fuck you over in this way? Why do you expect this man to not just up and leave after you have sex with this person? It's up to you to kind of understand that. Just the same way that a gun is just a tool. It's a tool that puts in bullets and shoots them out at extreme speed. If somebody's a hunter, if somebody's more responsible, more stable, the chances of them using that gun to shoot at you are slim to none. But they're also very unstable people that if you give those people a gun, the chances of them shooting at you are a lot higher. And there's many ways to know which kind of people are less likely to shoot you with that gun. That doesn't mean we should just ban all guns. So yeah, there's a danger out there. Be careful. Be wise about it. Check out those videos. It's a really sad story. And see if you can kind of see where I'm going with the whole thing, where he's like talking about things that are broken. And then he's like, okay, this all women. But I'm like, yeah, don't you understand that, like, there's some women who haven't been broken by this system? Do you understand there's some men who haven't been broken by this system? So they're going to be able to see a lot of the red flags that these people in these stories were actually waving, these women in these stories were waving, and that this man, this father in particular, could not see due to the issues that he had in his childhood. But yeah, so peaceful parenting. Be careful out there. Check out those links below. So on the screen right now is the Sowell 3, which are 3 questions Thomas Sowell normally asks in the socioeconomic setting, which is what he kind of talks about the most. And I think they apply to other parts of your life, especially when it comes to getting into a relationship, when relationships lead to marriages, and marriages, that's a business contract between 2 people, or more if you're in a polygamous situation, to start a new life together, a new institution of life together, and then bring new lives into this world, bring new products into the world. So it's kind of like a business. So I think when you're kind of thinking about this in applied to this kind of question I'm asking, can broken people be fixed, or am I dealing with a broken person? What are the threats out there? So compared to what? When you're looking at somebody and you're judging them as their broken sense, it's compared to what? What is the norm that you're kind of judging this person based off of? Like, are they normal for actually what they've actually dealt with? Now, at what cost? I think that's something you actually have to personally be completely aware of. What cost is it going to take for me to enter this relationship? What's that person giving up to enter this relationship? So I think those are things that people don't really establish before they actually get to do this. And what solid proof do you have? I think if you know compared to what, you know the kind of standards that person is and at what cost, the things that you're going to lose. Now you need solid proof to kind of back up those things. What is the solid proof that this person is beyond help or can't be helped or is not supposed to be like that? Why are they so odd compared to these other positive things that you're seeing? Or at what cost? How sure are you that the things you're losing, you're going to give, are actually worthwhile for that? How sure are you that you could possibly avoid the potential costs that could come by from just dealing with the horrible family court system and some very skewed relationships and just things like that. So just let me know what you guys think about that. I may not be the best person to answer these questions or talk about this topic since I am single while recording this. But hey, hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.